Any further staff? You want to come up? Barbara, or do you have something you want to say? Okay. All right, I have Marietta in the queue.
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I don't think my button's working. I'm trying to get you.
I thought something clicked in and out. Okay, so that's Mac on the queue and Marietta as well. So we'll let Marietta go first.
All right. Just for clarification, I'm no different than any of you sitting out there in your seats. I'm just a normal guy who got elected. And one of the things that bothered me, that has always bothered me, is the lack of the ability to be able to fight against this Southern California Edison, fight against the Verizons of the world and some of the cable companies and the water districts and all of these other entities that are affecting our lives. And the only way we can do that is to have choices. The federal and state government are piling regulations on our cities more, I mean, you just can't even imagine. Most of our tax money gets spent defending ourselves against the state and federal regulations that come down for us to deal with. So what do we have choices. We can either deal with it together as cities, which is kind of what we do here, or we can try to pay for it individually, in which each city, each entity will be paying for the same thing over and over and over, just in different districts, and they'll all run out of money. We'll spend every dime of our taxpayer money trying to individually deal with these issues. One of my promises to our constituents in my city is, you know what, I will fight to find ways to reduce your costs, to give you choices, to let you decide how you want to live your life. And so, you know, when these type of opportunities come up, we need to explore them. We need to ferret out whether they're going to be good or bad. And in this particular case, you know, I don't see the negatives that everybody is bringing up. I really don't. What I do see, and Kevin, this goes to the supervisor's comment earlier, is if you find that it costs more than if you want to pay Edison, pay Edison. It's your choice. That's the whole thing. You get a choice. I get to choose, not the government, not Southern California Edison. There is no other provider in Marietta than Southern California Edison. We don't have SDG&E trying to move into Marietta to provide competition. My electricity bills over the years have gone from $60 to $120 to $200 to $250. I finally put in solar panels, my choice again, and my electricity bills are back down to $50. Well, guess what? That was my choice. And if I choose to go back to paying them $250, I'll rip the solar panels off. I don't have to do that. So I want the choices, and I want the people in Marietta to have the choices. And when we have a group of cities that want to explore the same thing, that's what this body is for. So I'm not opposed to this. I'm not opposed to you having choices in your lives. I'm opposed to trying to make each entity fight for their own survival against the federal and state government. That's what WRCOG is. WRCOG is just the cities trying to work together and save you money instead of trying to us individually fight for our lives out there and waste all of your money doing the exact same thing over and over and over again. So I'm not opposed to this. I think this is a good idea to explore. I think we should continue to explore it.
Ooh. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, I can clear the room. That's my only option I have. I would ask for the decorum that we gave you in response from you. So please keep quiet and enjoy the conversation. Thank you. Mike McGartin.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair, for letting me speak. A couple of things. First of all, my city chooses to be a member of WRCOG, and I was the selected member of my city council here. So in that sense, I presume I was elected and then chosen to represent the city here, and I think that applies to all of us. I think what I'm hearing the speaker say, and by the way, I appreciate you all coming out, and you know, it's no small thing to come out to the county to hear an obscure body like WRCOG discussing issues like
it is obscure.
I'm a little confused because I think a lot of the comments might be somewhat off point. I don't think we're here to determine the method of generation. I think we're talking about buying electricity on the spot market and delivering it to our constituents at less than what they're paying Southern California Edison. Maybe I could shine a little bit of light because my city and myself has a lot of experience in doing this. Whenever a new development goes into your community, let's say a large specific plan, whether it's 500 units or 1,000 units, the developer ends up turning over that infrastructure, all the transformers, the power lines, the meters, everything, all that gets deeded over to Edison, and they literally have business handed to them on a platter, and they begin to provide electrical service. What this enables the cities to do is say, well, we can still hand over some of the infrastructure to Edison, or we can hand over the distribution of that to a third party, and we can buy the electricity cheaper than Edison is delivering it at. And what's interesting is we tend to forget Edison is a private organization, it's a shareholder organization that is out there to make money for its shareholders. And it's a great model because they're the only game in town, so everything gets turned over to them. It's interesting, we dealt with this in Temecula about 8-9 years ago, the same exact thing, and you would not believe the lobbying effort that Southern California Edison imposed upon us. We ended up starting our utility, which is generally what we're talking about doing together here, and then we didn't pursue it because they literally threw a lot of time and energy and effort into clouding the whole issue, much like the issue is being clouded here today. Nobody's talking about a solar project or a green project or a wind project or anything of that nature. We're not looking to do anything like that.
But it will lead to it.
In fact, Edison buys its electricity from the same place we're talking about buying electricity, from the generators of it. They don't own the Hoover Dam. They buy energy from the Hoover Dam and they turn around and sell it to you. So, and then of course, if you want, you can opt out. So, I'll say it again because I singled out the Hoover Dam, but there's a lot of areas that generate electricity. A lot of places electricity is generated, and Edison buys it. They make long-term commitments on the spot market, and then they turn around and sell it to you. It's an interesting model. A couple of other things. My general point, I like what Councilmember Ciardo said. The reason why we're here is so that we can speak with a greater, larger voice. As I said earlier, when we did this in Temecula, we were one of the lone cities doing this, and we got hammered. Just hammered by Edison and all of their PR and all of their money. And frankly, we didn't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars to refute all of the misinformation that they were putting out. A lot of fear tactics, actually, because they held the monopoly. So we chose not to pursue it. But when you get all the cities together like this, we start speaking with more of a cogent voice, more of a unified voice, and more of a powerful voice, if you will. My general feeling is leave it up to the cities to decide what they want to do. We've set this up in Temecula, but we haven't pursued it. Frankly, I'll cast an affirmative vote to do it here today, and then we're going to go meet with I know Ms. Spunari, you're coming to meet with me and the city manager, and I'll take this back to my council, and we'll decide whether or not, as a city in Temecula, whether or not we want to do it. I think that's great. WRCOG is here to save all the member agencies' money. They're doing exactly what they should be doing. And I'll give you another example of this, of how there's a disparity that you never hear about. Recently, we launched a streetlight program, okay? And what's interesting there is when a new development is put into your communities, these streetlights, just like the electrical infrastructure, is dedicated to Edison, so they get it for free. And then they turn around and they charge you for the electricity that you're using to light it. So we found out that if we put LED bulbs, we can drastically cut our electrical costs. And so we, as a board, had that implemented, and now those changes are occurring throughout the region. But here's another interesting thing. Edison is making us buy those poles back, even though they got them for free. I brought that up at my council meeting. It's not something that I liked. I would have liked them to write a check, and I don't know if our Edison representatives are here or there. I would have liked them to say, you know what, great, we got it for free, here's it back for free, just take it over. Instead, we're having to buy it. well, that's what a shareholder company does. Kudos to you. You know what? You turn around and got something for free and is selling it for millions of dollars. I mean, that's what they do. But never forget they're there to make a profit. So I have no trouble with all the cities going to do this and make decisions of their own. I do have one question though. At what point is the delta between there's not enough cities participating? In other words, you know, we have, what, 26 member organizations here. What if only 2 want to do this? At that point, does it fall apart? Is not worth pursuing? How many, what's our threshold for minimum number of cities making this worthwhile?
Theoretically, there isn't a threshold. An individual city, the town of Apple Valley, just recently launched their individual in San Bernardino Upper, the high desert. And they're super small. Again, what we hope is that we would see more economies of scale, and if Western Riverside, along with working with Coachella Valley, we would work in the back end to create those economies where we could work together on the consultants and being able to share the various levels to put costs forward.
I'll ask the question another way, okay? Because I'm trying to get more of a distinct answer.
And I'm going to bring my consultant, Gary Saliba, up.
Very good. This isn't a gotcha or something. I'm just saying that, you know, if this passes today, everybody's going to take it to their respective cities and have the conversation. If at the end of the day, cities don't want to pursue it, but maybe 2 do, at that point, is it worthwhile as a COG to be involved in this?
Yeah, as a general premise, bigger is better just because of scale savings and economies of scale. But the CCAs can run with as few as 5,000 or 10,000 customers, and you've got about 300,000 here in WR So
I'll say it another way, just so we can make it clear, and maybe we can talk about it. Because there's a cost involved in COG being involved. So I guess we need to find out. I mean, we're talking about a CEO, an organization, salaries, all of that stuff. At some point, that probably doesn't make good sense if there's only 2 or 3 cities involved. And I'll tell you why I'm saying that is that we formed this utility in Temecula. We can do that now without WRCOG, okay? Ask him all the cities, but it's good that you speak together, that we speak together and all operate as one. So that's why I bring it up. One more comment, and then I'll release the floor, Mr. Chair. I think I'm speaking for everybody that if your city goes down the road of wanting to adopt this, all of the people who spoke here today can go to the respective cities. Their debate will be at their city council. Their resolutions have to be approved. But today, our COG is doing what we have charged our COG to do, and that is look for cost-saving measures that come as a result of banding together as cities. That's what we do. It's not a shadow government. It's not operating in secret. Proof in the pudding, you're here today, and I'm talking to you. I don't know how much more transparent that can get. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Excuse me, Mr. Chair, if I just to go back to the committee and Gar's comments. As we move forward in the development and coming out to meet with the individual cities, once we have an idea of who is in and who is out, then we'll be able to run some more performance that we would be able to bring back to WRCOG as well as if the CCA is formed, so that they can then see what the cost savings is that would potentially be passed on to the residents to move forward. So there's still decision points along the way that the local jurisdiction or WRCOG can take if it doesn't want to move forward. If it starts to see that there's only 4 cities and maybe that savings goes down to like a 2%, or something along those lines, and the CCA and the government structure decides that it doesn't want to move forward, there's always the ability to stop.
Thank you.
Consultants
Mr.
making
Chair,
big money.
One other thing, and I'll be very quick about it. About 5 or 6 years ago, I believe it was this body, because I know we discussed it in our council meeting, Edison set baseline rates across the board from all of its service areas. And we complained about that because they were treating us like the coastal cities and charging us a rate that might have been appropriate for Redondo Beach or those coastal cities, but was more egregious for us in the Inland Empire because we run our air conditioning. We use that energy a lot more. And you know what? We went through a great struggle to get them to adjust that. And even then, they barely adjusted that. There is virtue in independence and not giving a monopoly to a company, no matter how good a company like Edison may be or not be. I'm not here to pass judgment on that. But I brought up those examples to show that that's the difference between operating independently or operating with a monopoly.
Thank you. Councilmember Hewitt from Kalamazoo.
Oh, yeah. I'm on a couple of these JPAs, so when they switch them around, sometimes I'm talking on the other guy's mic. I don't want that person to have take the responsibility for what I say. First of all, I never felt more proud to be an Inland Empire than today, to see the kind of activity of the people that come out here and say the things that really bother them, okay? First of all, you can say things that I can't, and that's why I'm really, really jealous. Every one of you got up here and spoke. Some were a little bit more right in my eyes than others, but you made me realize things about this program, which our staff is a very good staff. They're very bright. They're given an assignment by a group, a body made up of over 20 people. We can go into the specific of whether it's, really representative or not, but that's for another day. I think the fact that each one of you pointed out things like, hey, this other CCA goes ahead and pushes, green energy more ahead. In other words, the way, look, we're going to give you this little piece of bait right here that says you're going to save 5%, but oh, by the way, we're going to go from 28%, like Edison does now, to 33% green energy. Those are things that need to be pointed out. It's a little bit harder for you guys to get up there and speak, although it isn't for Don. And Don, I'm really, really disappointed in you. You had 800 fire-breathing followers the other night, and this number is far, far less than 800, but they're all great people. They came in here and they're making their points. But the point of the matter is, if we don't stay on top of everything at every level, whether it be right at our city councils or at this next level, then bad things happen. I think you know where I stand on this, but I don't care. Come at us, come at the electeds all you want. Treat staff, though, for the hard work that they do. They're on the same side. They just need to know where you stand.
No, they're not.
City of Norco.
I don't think either of those. Have we ever voted on a fast track or a... That's a different agency, correct?
Right, that's our CTC.
What's really important, is that the government works when you really understand who you're talking to and what we're trying to do. I come from a community of 25,000 people. I have got to get along with Riverside, Rupa Valley, Eastvale, Corona, because if I don't, and by the way, of the 25,000, 4,000 are prisoners, so I got 21,000. If we don't get along, if I don't get information from every one of those people, my community will go down the tubes. I applaud the fact that you're talking to us, but understand, know what agency you're talking to. I've never voted on a tolling in my whole life. It's just really important because what makes the government work is you, not just standing up there and sort of saying whatever you feel you want to say. Do I have morals? Really? Is that what the issue is? You don't even know me, sir. And it's really, really important that we have to stand together because our true enemy is, in a way, for me, Sacramento. Because as a small city, I have to have the help of everybody who's sitting here. I have to get information from all of these agencies, from all of these cities. Because in essence, when we go out and we create something, what happens is all of our money gets sent to Sacramento and they tell us what to do with it. So try to understand, try to get more involved in our individual governments. Come to Norco. We probably won't vote for this because we probably can't afford to do it. But when I look at Edison, which is a very difficult agency, I mean, I'll say it, they're very difficult to deal with. One of the deals they make to our seniors is if you want to save money on your rates, you shut your electricity off at the hottest part of the day. So I have to make sure I turn on my senior center and they have air conditioning. That's the reality of what we deal with. So when we look at a program like this, where maybe I can save rates, maybe I can find a way to band together with other communities so that I don't have a senior sitting in 105-degree heat in their home, that is the reality. I deal with that. So in a way I want to support this, but in another way, if we can find a way, banding together, find a way to save some money, I mean, even businesses. My electrical bill, I got 22 employees, I got 7 buildings. By the way, I drive a 1997 truck, just for the record. It's really, it's very cost prohibitive for me to run a business because my electrical costs are incredible. And if I happen to go above, I'm in the kid business, if I happen to go above a certain rate, they triple my rates. So we have to look, even if this doesn't work, even if it's not feasible, we have to look. And I can't do it by myself.
Even if it isn't feasible, we're still going to study it.
Of 21,000.
What?
25 if you want to count our gated community. We do have a gated community, you know that, right?
Free meals.
So I just wanted to put in my 2 cents. Call me. I'll be willing to speak to any of you. But when you stand at that podium, remember, a lot of people died for you to stand at that podium. Get it right. That's all I have to say, sir.
All right. I have no one else in the queue. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Is it working?
There you go.
Which city?
So I wanted to thank everyone for coming out. This is wonderful. I think discussion and different opinions is a wonderful thing to see, and it's government in action. So with that, I am a single mom, and I am all about saving a buck. So, Ms. Spoonhour, I do have a couple of questions for you in regard to the program, and perhaps you and a consultant might be able to answer a couple of those questions. So if I could just run through those, that would be fabulous. Thank you. Could you explain what the risks are to WRCOG, if there are any, of entering into such a program?
The biggest risk is if the utility rates suddenly drop and Edison reduces their rates.
Competition.
And their rates would be significantly lower than the CCAs. The CCA does have the ability to have a reserve, which many of the existing CCAs have a reserve and use that as rate stabilization. That would be one of the biggest risks. And I don't know if Gary wants to add. But.
Okay, thank you. So I've heard a lot of comments and I've heard a lot of things coming from my colleagues up on the dais. So the real benefit is that we all would agree, and the bigger the purchase pool, in theory, the smaller the rate would be. Is that correct? So
That's right.
what the real benefit would be of doing and entering into a program like this.
About 90% of the cost are the actual power supply cost, and that's very, you can buy as much or little as you want. So whether you're buying a lot or little, that price is the same. But the other 10 or 15% is your overhead, which is about the same for a small utility versus a big one. So bigger utilities have lower overhead costs per customer. So that's where the scale savings are.
Okay. And as far as an opt-out, is there any cost to the customer to opt out, or are there any restrictions involved in an opt-out? Say, for instance, they get their first couple of bills, realize that there is a savings or is not a savings, whatever the deal may be. Is there a restriction on opting out at what time you can do that?
No, there is not a restriction on when they can opt out. For the CCA and operational perspective, as well as for Edison's, for data transfer, it's good to get the opt-outs prior to the launch or right after the launch has occurred. I don't anticipate that if the CCA moves forward and the governing board moves forward, that they would want to charge for an opt-out. The one piece is that Edison, if you opt out, Edison may want to keep that customer for a year before they would allow them to come back to the CCA.
Okay. And as far as guarantees for rates? Or is there at any time going to be any guarantees made on a savings? If someone were to choose to stay in, are we guaranteeing that they're going to save a certain percentage?
No.
Nope.
I think we're going to do our best to present, because the governing board of the CCA is the one that sets the rates. And they would be the ones that would select what those rates are, and staff would present, here is the options, here are the savings, here are, and have that governing board would then select the rates.
Okay. And will any comparison billing be done to show what possible cost would be coming if you were to join the CCA versus what Edison has currently?
Yes, the CCA is required to do a billing once a year to show the cost comparison between the CCA and the IOU. If the governing board would like that to see done more often, because Edison does increase your rates more than one time a year, because they go off of whatever they've been told by the CPUC as far as how they implement their rate structures. So if that CCA governance board would want it more often, more frequently, then that is something that the CCA staff would present.
Okay. And just a couple more questions, sorry. I just want to make sure, because I don't think this was covered in the program, in the presentation, so I just wanted to make sure we've got this covered. So, as far as the CARE program, I know Edison has a CARE program for income qualifying individuals who meet that threshold. Would that same program or like program be offered? With
That same program is residents can take advantage of. Any rebates or incentives that Edison provides, they provide through the public goods charge, which is charged through the distribution piece that every consumer pays. Those programs will still be available to any and all CCA customers as well as Edison customers.
Okay, is that something that they would have to apply for again? Or is
No.
it something that would be automatic if they were on the program before? Because a lot of these are elderly individuals or lower income individuals that may not understand or be able to fill out that paperwork and complete those types of things. So is it an automatic in?
It's an automatic that they would come across with the same rates that they have. So with the CARE rates, we would get a listing of every single rate and who's assigned to what rates. So we would know, and we would move that straight forward with the CCA.
Okay. And in regard to any repairs, so say I join or I don't opt out and I'm part of the CCA, and for some reason power stops coming to my house and something has gone wrong with the transmission lines, who am I calling and who's repairing the transmission?
You're calling Edison. Edison continues to take care of the distribution lines, as well as the billing and anything that occurs. So if a transformer goes out or someone hits a light pole on a corner and the lines go down, you're still calling Edison, because they are taking care of, that is what the distribution charges are that you're paying for on your Edison bill. The CCA is only the top section of the bill, which is generation only.
Okay. And in regard to a comment that my colleague made, that Edison is a shareholder for-profit company, basically. They've got a whole hierarchy that they go through. Does that mean that a CCA would be income neutral? Then, so nobody is making any money off of that, or is there any overhead to that, or how does the program help itself more?
So the program, initially, the CCA would secure capital either through a loan or through, if the consultants are offering, to pay for the setup. The CCA would need to borrow a couple months in advance worth of money to pay for the generation that they're purchasing, because it'll be a couple months before the money starts coming in from the consumer, from the billing from Edison. There are cases